when it comes to thinking about positivity and negativity in this lifetime, there's a couple ways of looking at it. One would be from the external perspective, which is really how most of us are trained to think of things as either positive or negative. We've been told through our upbringing, through the culture that we were raised in and the family that we were raised in, what we should deem positive or negative. Having a solid job, you work for somebody for 40, 50 years, same company. This is considered positive by most baby boomers, but for Gen X, like I am, and beyond, a lot of our generations are moving out of that and have moved into that not being positive, that what is more positive or what is positive is that we have diverse experiences, that we work in different companies, work for ourselves, that we are not tied down to one company for our entire lives. So even within the same culture, from one generation to the next, we have differences in what we deem positive or negative. I grew up here in the United States, but I was born in Korea. And there's an interesting, to me, to them it's just normal, but to me it's an interesting custom of eating silkworm pupa. These are street snacks. They are sold like you would get roasted peanuts in New York, in a cone that you eat, as you're walking along the street. And these are the pupa of silkworms. So as a silkworm goes through its stages, just like all worms do, it's going to move from being an egg to a caterpillar to then it cocoons itself so that it emerges as this beautiful silk moth. After that stage, before it becomes the silk moth, of where it cocoons, in the silk industry, they take the threading of that cocoon and turn it into silk products, silk threads. But the pupa itself in Korea is eaten as a snack. This, too, maybe many of you listening right now are going, oh, that's so negative. Negative for a few different reasons. The fact that people would eat insects, maybe you're thinking it's negative because of the harmful effects on this living being, this animal that's used for its threads and then eaten. For whatever reasons, in Korea, China even, I think that's actually where the custom began. This is normal. This is positive. It's a positive, healthy commercial industry of silk trade and silk production. It's a positive thing to eat this healthy, yummy, to them, snack. I've had them and I didn't find it very yummy. So to me, or to an American or anybody who's listening to this is going, ugh, you might be thinking, God, that's so negative. These are trained responses based on, again, all of the conditions that raised us, that we were raised in, from culture to family to generation, and even within your own lifetime, you will move through your own set of customs. And that's what I want to get to in this video today. That as we mature and evolve as human beings and reconnect to ourselves as divine beings, we no longer judge ourselves, our life, our choices, what makes us feel good or bad through those external means. It doesn't mean that you don't have opinions anymore. It means that your opinion matters most. And by your opinion, I'm not talking about the opinions that you learned to have based on the culture, the family, the society, the time and the generation that you grew up in. I'm talking about your own, your divine self's own opinion, this true nature that we are in this body, in this lifetime. As we mature in getting to know this about ourselves, we get to really tap into this understanding of who we are, and then tap into the knowing that emanates from this place, to where we know in our bones, we could say, we know in the depth of our soul what is right, wrong, feels good, feels bad, is the right thing to do, is the wrong thing to do. We know that from deep within, from a different place, from a true place, from a place of all knowing, because that divine being is tapped into the divinity of all, is tapped into the energy of all that is tapped into source creation. So when we live from that place, we no longer need those external judgments, those external opinions or factors to tell us whether or not we're having a good day, a bad day, or whether this is good or bad, or any of those value judgments. We can actually create that goodness in every moment. We can create true joy, not just a fleeting happiness. We actually create all of our circumstances in a conscious way, because we are living and creating anyway. Creating because you're still making choices, even if you don't know you're making those choices, you're still making those choices, which are going to lead to certain things, and your life will have a snowball effect. If your life is feeling like you're not in control of it, it is an out of control snowball going down a mountain and you can't stop it, but you want to stop it because it's going in the wrong direction, then you're not the one in the driver's seat. You're not the one in control. Your inner being is not being consulted on the matters of your life. What's being consulted and what you're using to judge or control or to shape your life are all of those learned responses, all of the programs. So to break free from the programs that you were given, and that you were raised in, that you didn't sign up for, but you kind of did because your soul signed up for it, and here you are, and you got to experience all that. As we move into a new phase of evolution, just like the silkworm, it moves through all of those stages to get to, if it's lucky, its final stage of being a silk moth. As we move through our own stages of evolution and go within to truly understand and connect to who we really are, we get to drop all of those false ideas of who we are, these false aspects of our identity. We get to create exactly who we want to be based on who we know we are, through the power that our divine being has here in this lifetime. Connecting to that, living into that, being that being rather than the controlled, enslaved being who's just being told what to think and do, that is true freedom. That is the spiritual journey. And we don't have to die to ascend. We don't have to leave this earthly plane to get to experience this heaven on earth. We get to experience it now because we choose to believe and understand the truth of who we really are. And we get to the opportunity of dropping all of those false pretenses and lenses and programs and ways that we've been told what is right, wrong, feels good, doesn't feel good, is yummy, is not yummy, all of those things. We get to drop that as the ways and means that we judge our life to be wholesome and amazing and wonderful and blissful. Heaven on earth truly is a real thing when we live from our inner being, when we live from the knowing that we are divine, that we are the universe here in this being, that we are this spark of creation, we are an incarnation of God, that all of that exists here to experience life through, to actually live and co-create from that place rather than that other place. That other place that we're going to choose to leave behind if we want to step into this true understanding of who we really are. Once we get here, then it starts to get really fun, but before it gets fun, it gets really dark. So the darkness and the depths at which we go are the shedding. Just like that silkworm, you're going to move into a cocoon state, a state in which you are transforming and shedding all of these old beliefs, all of these old programs, all of these old and outdated stories that are not who you are. And you are removing yourself from the enslavement of those ideas and from the control of those programs. And it can be dark, and it can be scary, and it can be a time that is painful and is uncomfortable. If you're choosing this life of living at your best and living at your highest and living the dreams that you have that maybe keep you up at night, or that keep you dissatisfied at work, or that you are distracted by when you're trying to just do your day-to-day living, those dreams become reality. That's heaven on earth. That you turn your dreams into reality and actually get to live it here, now, in this body, in this lifetime, not just when you ascend and die. You get to actually live it now. And the living of it is a choice. The choice takes you through a whole process, a journey. That journey is described by so many and is your own. So even though so many souls have gone through this, you're still going to need to go through it on your own. You can't just read about somebody else's journey and then go, okay, I get it. I understand what that is, and I'm cool. I'll just skip that stage and move on to becoming this beautiful moth, butterfly. No, you've got to go through that phase in order to actually transform into this next phase. Are we already that being? Yes, absolutely, we are. But unless you grew up in a place where you weren't constricted by programs and constricted by other people's idea of who you are and what life is and what tastes good and what is good and what's bad, unless you grew up in some sort of magical place like that, then you need to go through the stages of shedding. You need to go through that clearing in order to emerge from that with and free of, right? Ready to flap those beautiful wings stage. So it's a freeing process rather than just deciding, okay, I'm going to be free because I'm a soul in this body and I know that. So I'm just going to be that. Deciding to be that is one thing. Deciding to step into that truth, step number one. And then from there, we go through a process. That process is beautiful. It's I believe what it is we're doing here on this planet. And it's a complete gift to go through it, but it doesn't mean that it isn't hard. It doesn't mean that it doesn't bring up a ton of challenges and that it isn't potentially painful. It doesn't mean any of that, even though it still is a gift and it's beautiful and it's the best thing that could ever happen to you and it's why we're here. Like, all of those things are true, and it's also something that many don't choose to do because of the dark, dank, uncomfortable, potentially painful aspects of it. So who are you going to be? Are you going to be the person who doesn't take any risks or doesn't go into themselves to free themselves from all of these false programs and do that hard work and go deep within? If you are going to choose that path, and maybe you already have chosen that path and you are living that kind of life, it's going to look like a life that feels anywhere from slightly dissatisfying to intolerable. It's going to feel somewhere between just meh to completely meaningless. You're going to operate in a place of ho-hummery all the way to suicidality. If you want to exist in that spectrum, that's also a choice. And you can absolutely exist there. A certain portion of my life, I existed there too. But if you want to go on this journey and actually do the work, go through the shedding, go through the freeing, and get to the place of where you're actually living from this exalted, divine experience, I want to invite you to the Everyday Mystic community. Because yes, your journey is going to be your own, and it's going to be something you absolutely have to go through. No one else can do it for you. But people can be there with you to support you, to provide some guiding lights, to give you some advice along the way, to offer signposts to say, hey, come this way if you're feeling this way. And as you make those moves yourself, and as you live this life yourself, you get the helping hand from out of the ditch or toward the light or in some way, shape, or form by others who are also walking this path. And that's what this community is all about. It's myself, other incredible mentors, and everyday mystics just like you who are thinking about or already living on this path of emerging as their true self, as their soul self and divine being, living and choosing this life, the fullness of this life, and everything that comes with it. Most importantly, the beauty and the truth and the purpose and the deep meaning that comes from living as your beautiful, divine, fully emerged self. Don't get eaten in the pupa stage. Don't get devoured in that phase. You absolutely can. So many people do. And as you think about that metaphor, look around you, look within your own family, and go, oh yeah, that person, these people totally got devoured by those programs, those choices that they weren't making for themselves, by this thing that had enslaved them. It's a choice, my friends. If you want to make this choice of walking into freedom, We would love to be by your side. Go to theeverydaymystic.org/community. Check it out and join us.